with Four Guys with Quarters. I'm doing a very, very special interview with Kosha, who is a actress and voiceover talent in many, many projects. Very pleased to have met her and very honored that she agreed to come on the show with us today. On the panel, we have Dreadpool and Crispy Bomb, and it looks like Gaz is connecting now as well. So he'll be on the panel. But Kosha, good morning.
Morning.
Actually, it's lunchtime by you, right? Past
It
lunchtime?
is, yes, 3 o'clock here.
3 o'clock. Okay. So I want to go ahead and I'll start off. I want to ask you, how did you get started in voice acting?
Voice acting. Uh, so there's a company called OMUK over here, Outsource Media UK, and the guy who runs it is called Mark Esdale, and he does loads of games. And I worked with him on a play. He was the sound designer, and then he brought me in for my very first game, and then I've been doing it since I think it's 2007 now.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to remember how I wanted to phrase this. Now, when you did this, was it were you apprehensible, or what was your thought when you were approached by doing voiceover?
Well, as an actor, it was something that was always appealing, because it's just one of the things that we can have in our toolbook. Uh, for me, voice acting has always been really freeing. It's much more freeing than being on camera because I always look like myself, even with makeup and whatnot. I basically look like me. But with voice, you can be anything. So I find it really freeing.
I always joke about everybody, going in doing the voice acting with their pajamas on. Um, Now, obviously, some people do, some people don't. They dress up. Do you do anything like that where you dress up to feel like you're fitting the part? Is there any preparation for that?
For voice acting, I don't, partly because so much is you have to be careful about sound. So even if I wanted to, sometimes it helps if you're playing a really, I don't know, say a military character, you don't want to wear soft clothing, but you've got sound issues, so you have to dress fairly neutrally. But if I'm on camera, definitely, it really helps to inform the character. But with voice, it's much more in the mind.
All right.
What was the first role that you got as a voice actress?
Very first role. Okay, not counting commercials. I think it was Rodan, Myth of Elohim. And it
Oh
was
wow.
um I think I played Mondra Diamond. And then pretty much at the same time I did something called Ankh 3. And I played a kind of like bitchy character called Tara. Uh so yeah, they were sort of like small computer games, and then from there it got bigger and bigger.
Now, when you went for some of these roles, did you actually get to pick the character that you wanted to be, or was it trying out for what was offered at the time?
Yeah, usually I just get sent. Sometimes you get sent a group of characters because they're not sure where your voice will be. And other times they say, we want you to try out for this character. Here's the breakdown. Usually they have some artwork. If it's a main character, they show you what it looks like so it can help to form what you want to do. And they also, sometimes they have voice references. So they'll have links to YouTube clips or whatever so that you're in the sort of ballpark of what the developer hears.
Okay. Um, if anyone in the panel has a question, feel free to jump in. Gaz, I know that you've joined us. I see you up there.
Yes, sorry, I'm just frantically trying to sort out my profile name has come up as the website name. So Kosha, hi. Sorry, just running madly late to this. I'll let Clownz settle in with the questions as I put out the fires on my end. So apologies.
Uh, so one of the questions I had for you was, is there any memorable characters that really stick out for you that you really felt like, wow, this role is awesome. I can really relate to this character.
For voice acting or for sort of regular acting?
Either or.
Okay. So I don't know if you've heard of the film or the play Dangerous Liaisons. It's been done a couple of different times, one with Glenn Close and then another time with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What's her name? You know who I mean.
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So they did a version of it as well. And at university, I got to play Mertoy, the sort of badass, scheming, sexy woman. And I was way too young to play this role, but I loved it. It was so meaty and like, it was a bit evil and it was brilliant. And too often I get cast as like kind of nice characters. And I love to play bad characters. What else?
I've noticed that as a trend in a lot of actors, that they love playing the evil one.
Yeah, because you just get to be naughty, and you spend most of your life trying to be like a good person, good citizen, and then you can just turn on the dark, and it's really fun.
No, I appreciate that. A friend of mine on a video game I play, he goes, "Why are you such a terrible human being?" I was like, "I spend my life conforming to being nice. I need an outlet. This is it."
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly.
I was going to ask, the gaming medium. It's I mean, what are your views on it in terms of the maturity of the medium comparative to maybe film or theater? Do you still think there's a perception that in your mind, do you have a perception that it's still a growing medium, that it still has a long way to go to mature, or that it's achieved parity with Hollywood? What are your thoughts on that side of things?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's become a massive industry, and in terms of content, it's definitely matured since I can remember first playing, Mario Brothers and King Kong when I was a kid. The level of complexity, not only from the beautiful artwork and design, and like literally you can see the hair strands on the characters, but the complex and nuanced storylines that we get now. It's not just appealing to one demographic, it's appealing to people of, in all parts of society, to help them. Sometimes it's just pure pleasure and escapism, and other times it deals with really difficult issues. It can help people cope with things in their life. It's far-reaching and can be really immersive. I mean, I love games, and so everybody in my family does. And in terms of film, I think the writing is still coming up. There are some games where the writing is really, really strong and as good as what you see on TV. In fact, I think Battletoads has brilliant writing. But I think that sometimes with the focus of the game is the actual gameplay, sometimes the writing suffers. But when they start attracting basically Hollywood screenwriters or just brilliant writers with who can write really compelling characters, and then I think it probably will reach its peak.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
No, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, no, that's a really good point about the whole balancing the gameplay element, because you have to reconcile the two. If gameplay structures are a lot more open by their premise. So, because it's interactive, that kind of takes away your ability to then maybe push a certain narrative a certain way. But there are some linear games, that have even surpassed a lot of Hollywood games like The Last of Us. I don't know if you know about that.
I do. I haven't played it, but yeah, my husband did, and he thought the writing was amazing, and that it was really, what was the word he used? It made you check your own morality and do some soul searching. That's brilliant that you can have that and in an interactive form.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the scope for a game, because of the fact that you have this ability to immerse yourself in an interactive experience, means that then, whilst initially there's a challenge narratively in terms of narrative, what you can do through the medium of games is really draw people into that because you are in that universe literally. You know, books, you're reading it, your mind is filling the blanks. With movies, you're seeing it, the music and the pacing fills your blanks, and then the games take it a little bit further because you are seeing and controlling what the narrative is. So no, hopefully I'd like to see that. And I've heard your voice lines on the game. I just wanted to just get your view on it, because it's really important, because Clownz is really good on this show, bringing a whole variety of people's views on the state of video games. This is inevitably before he starts plugging in Xbox Game Pass to everyone. So, but it's really good to see that everyone is observing a growth in gaming as it's rising in popularity and maturity. But it's still got a long way to go, in my opinion. But yeah,
I think so. I mean, I think we can achieve more, three-dimensional characters. We can, in terms of the same things that we're dealing with in TV and film, diversity and representation, and how women are portrayed, all that stuff, of course, can develop. But I mean, it's a very exciting time to be in games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
Do you have a game you may have played or something like that which you were a part of, or even a game you were a part of that you played later and you thought you were brilliant, or maybe even didn't realize what was actually entailed?
Okay, so I have played I don't know if you heard of PlayStation VR Worlds. You heard of that one? It was a game where they had, I think, 4 or 5 sample games to show you what the Sony VR console would be like and what the experience could be like. So they had 5 really different games to show you how immersive it could be, but all the variety that VR could offer you.
Yeah.
So I did a game called Scavengers Odyssey, and it was sort of like a truncated game. It wasn't full length. And I played the craft AI. And I'm the voice in your head, and I walk you through the whole thing and tell you what to do. And what's really cool is that in the booth, sometimes you get clips or trailers or whatever of the game, so you can see what the world looks like and imagine yourself in it. But a lot of times you don't have any of it. You literally just have an Excel spreadsheet with the lines and maybe a little bit of written direction. And then you've got a director who's kind of guiding you through, telling you what the scenario is.
Yeah.
And so, you'll be like, you'll come in on a Monday morning at 10, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, so you're in space and there's some asteroids coming toward you, but this is all par for the course. You've done this a million times. But you're slightly alarmed, so they just throw it at you, and you have to imagine all of it. And you never know how it's going to, one, you don't know how that's going to come across in the final performance. And 2, you don't know what the actual thing's going to look like. So to be able to play this game, Scavengers Odyssey, and, be in it, jumping on these space rocks and dealing with monsters and killing them all and stuff, to see what they were describing is always really satisfying. But I'm always super critical of my performance. I'm like, oh, I could have just done that a little bit different. I could have just, it's hard sometimes to listen back. Sometimes I'm pleased, but I'm quite self-critical.
It's a bit weird though, because you'll have the benefit of hindsight, but a fuller picture when you're playing, especially in VR. You're literally immersed in the game world. So if that's the first time you've experienced, like Crispy Bomb said, that's the first time you've experienced your work after the fact, then naturally you're going to be very critical. It's like, oh, I didn't know it's literally going to be like this. My mind was thinking it was something like this. That's weird. A friend of mine works at audio studio. He directs at Ubisoft, and I noticed that it's Excel spreadsheets and lines upon lines being said, no gameplay shown. And I did ask him. I said, well, surely it would benefit the voice actors if they could see what they are doing, and that's really, he said, that's really the case. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I did a big game recently. I can't say what it is, but it's coming out this month. It's a really big game. Probably one of the biggest games, and that'll come out this year. And they were great because they were like, here's the world, here's the artwork, here's a trailer, this is the tone, here's some of the music. And you really start to feel where you're going to fit into this. When they tell you the rules of the world, particularly, I mean, almost most games are, you know, some kind of fantasy. So it's, you know, this is a world in which this is, you know,
With Vikings, yeah.
Totally. So you understand like where your character fits in, you know, are you high status? Are you low status? Are, you know, you know, is this a really violent world? Is this a sort of ruthless, you know, all that stuff, it all affects how you perform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I saw Clownz' eyes perk up as you said, there's a game we cannot talk about. And now you're going to get 20 questions of all of us trying to narrow down what game it is.
No, I won't do that because I know like how strict you know, NDAs are and stuff, and I wouldn't do that to you, Kosha. But I
No one's
know
going to enforce it. It's fine. It's only a month.
Gaz is thinking. He's already thinking like, what could it be?
I was already pushing it off to be you know, delayed till sometime middle of next year. Wink, wink. But we know
we'll
that's
see.
not it. We know that's not it. So, when you've done this, was there anything that was a memorable character that you would like to go back to? If you could decide your character to go back and make a game based on your character.
That's a no.
I didn't mean to stump you.
I'm now literally like just reeling through the games and the characters. Yeah, you know, in this game that's about to come out, I play several, I can't say any of their names. I can play several different types of characters, and I actually really enjoyed the writing in this game. And I think mostly they are side quests, but like, you know, cool characters, interesting characters. I mean, it's really the luxury of, because I do a lot of, in games, I tend to play a lot of different roles. Sometimes I play the main character, but a lot of times I'm brought in to just do like, just tons. And you sort of dip your feet in to a little moment or a scene or few scenes or whatever. But the fun of just going through an entire game and being able to, you know, have an arc and experience the whole world and all the different characters, that's the best, really. So I don't know if I could pick any one character, but I would just say it'd be fun to take some of these really cool characters that I've played and then, you know, put them in their own story, like their own little spin-off story.
The first thing, I've never done voice acting. I've been begging my friend to at least let me do like a scream in his game, like set me on fire or something. He hasn't done that, which I hate my friend for. But the first thing I would do, and I don't know if you've done this, is if I'd find the character in a game that I voiced and try and kill them.
I haven't done that. Like I play a lot of, I'm obsessed with Skyrim. Do you play this game?
Oh, it's a good game, great game.
Okay. Like there are people who will go in and just kill all the chickens and like, you know, kill the townspeople. And I can't do it. There's whenever I try to create lots of different characters, but I can never be the one that's just like, just killing people, or even my own character. That would be so weird, but it would be funny. I think I should do that now, actually.
And then hear all the little voice notes that you record, and then you get a bout of PTSD as you remember, oh my god, I remember this line where I was pretending to be stabbed.
That's true, because I do a lot of dying in my games, and and sometimes it's hilarious because you're given 10 different deaths. You're given 10 different deaths. And they're like, yeah, so this one's going to be death by fire, and it's going to last. We need 3 different lengths. So can you die for 20 seconds? And then can you die louder for about 50 seconds? And you just because they want to have every different scenario. So it would be funny to just try and kill my character to just rifle through all the different deaths.
When you pick a character to play, when you're playing the games, do you customize your character after you, or do you just give it like a round effect of, it's just a female or a male?
Okay. So usually I start with myself, and I enjoy trying to make the character look as much like me as possible. And then I usually add some fantasy elements. I'm really revealing too much of myself now. But like in Skyrim, the first thing I did was make a character that looked like me, but that could do amazing magic. And then after I played it, like, I don't know, 5, 6 different times, then I would wheel out the orc, or the Argonian, or whatever. I would play something totally opposite from myself. But yeah, I enjoy that. The Sims too, I like making people that look like me, but like maybe a cooler version.
There's no such thing.
We do have some questions from the chat. Let's see here. Our friend and avid viewer Nukem asks, how has voice acting changed amid the COVID pandemic?
Okay. The only change for me has been I'm doing it a lot from home. Because I basically decided in April to invest in a whole studio setup, and luckily the company that I work with, called Side UK, they do a lot of voice for games and sound and whatnot. They took their actors that were willing to do it, and they kind of held their hand, walked them through the whole process of setting up a home studio. So a lot of people will pay to have someone consult, and I was really lucky that they were helping us out to keep getting work. The other thing that's changed is that usually you're in the booth with the engineer and the director for the game, and sometimes the developers are in the room, but mostly they're online. So now it's, when I go into a studio, other than lots of sanitizing, there's me, the engineer, and then everyone else is on Zoom now. There's almost never anyone else there. But gaming, the industry itself has just barreled on, as far as I can tell.
And Xbot in the chat asks, is there any voice actors or actresses that you've looked up to or admired?
Yeah. Okay, let me remember the name of the game. Uncharted. And is his name Nathan Nolan, I think it is.
Oh yeah.
He plays the main guy. He does tons of stuff. He's got such a rich, amazing voice, and his acting is fantastic. And he's, there's such compelling characters that he plays. I mean, there's loads of actors and actresses that I admire in games, but I'm afraid I usually know them by their character names, not their actor names. I should look them up. The fellow who plays The Witcher, Geralt. Yeah. Not Henry Cavill, but in the game. And there's also an actress I worked with on a game. She played Nilin in Remember Me. And this is gonna okay, it will come to me. Keziah Burrows, that's it. Yes. So she is, I believe she's Welsh, and she plays. She does a sort of British accent for this. She also did the voice. Did she do the voice or just likeness for? There was an Alien game recently, and I can't remember the title of it. This is useless. Anyway, she's brilliant. She does amazing physicality. She does a lot of mocap. And I was really taken with her performance as Nilin in Remember Me. It's something to look up to, that kind of, the actors that you'd want to spend however long a game takes to play, 8 hours, 14, 20, whatever it is, to make a character that's fun to listen to, fun to play, and, well performed.
No, absolutely.
So I know that you've been in a lot of games. We checked your Wikipedia and IMDb. Do your friends ever like message you like, "Oh my god, I just heard your voice. I just heard your voice in this game. I just heard you." Like, you ever get messages like that?
Yes. So particularly now that my friends' sons are sort of coming into the like teenage years and playing games, and I basically was not cool, and then suddenly they hear me in a game and they're like, "Oh my god, you were in this? I can't believe it." My cool factor among the young has definitely gone up the more games I'm in. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dripple.
I was going to say, because you're talking about being in the booth and acting. How deeply do you act? Because I just watching you talk, you a lot of hand motion. So I'd assume it's also the same thing with your acting when you get into it, because it is voice acting. You have to create that persona and get into it. I mean, do you? Obviously, I asked about earlier about the dress. You know, do you with the animations that you do, you know, as you go on, do they take any of that for the video and kind of help push it into the characters for your motions?
Yeah, so the first question about how deeply do I do it? I find that I have to move when I'm speaking the role, especially if it's a physical scene. A lot of times I'm in battles, and so I have to be throwing a grenade or shooting a gun or knifing someone, whatever the action is, and I have to do the movement, otherwise it doesn't sound real in the voice. And on that note, when I did Star Wars Battlefront II, they actually made us, the director who did it, it was a bunch of actors standing around, 8 of us in front of microphones, because it was group battle scenes, and he had weights in front of us. And during our lines, we'd have to shout them and lift up the weight to try and get that heft in the voice, because it really comes through if you're doing it for real. So that's one. And as far as the capturing the animation or action, yes. So a lot of games these days, if they're not doing full mocap, motion capture, they do facial capture. So for a lot of games, particularly one that's coming out soon, they kind of put a head cam on you, and they have a light and a camera that comes out in front of you, and they put dots on your face and whatnot, and they record your animation. So even if it's not my likeness that's going to be in the character, they will capture my facial expressions, particularly the way my mouth moves when I'm speaking, because it's easier to animate if you have the actual actor doing it. And then sometimes they do full motion capture, so they get likeness, they get the whole body, they get the voice. It just depends on the game.
It must be really difficult doing that. I don't know if you've ever had those balls on your face. That sounds really weird, but you know, the motion capture balls all over you, and then you're like in green spandex, and then you're supposed to play a very serious role. Does that? I always found that weird. Like, how do you get in the mode for that? I mean,
Yeah.
presumably a lot of drugs, but
Wow, yes.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There's always a moment when you get into those suits and all the actors sort of come out with everything on display. It's not flattering for anyone. And we just laugh at each other. And then, but it's basically like just wearing a costume for the first time. You sort of notice it, and then it goes away. You immerse yourself in the scene. You try to be grown up, and you know, just get into it and forget the rest of it. It's, you know, it's like doing film acting. You know, you've got a camera in your face, and you got lights everywhere, and you've, you know, the actor, you can see all the stuff that the camera can't see. So you just have to kind of block it out, stay in the moment, try and get emotionally engaged.
Noof asks in the chat, how do you feel about female characters taking on more prominent and empowering roles in games?
Well, I think it's great, and I'm all for it. I mean, what's fun, what I like to see are characters that aren't just badass and sexy, but also just badass and smart, or, you know, they're not, I like to see women that are in power that are all different sorts of ways, you know, the way actual people are, you know, in the same way for men. You know, you see a lot of action heroes who are, you know, muscled, good looking guys, and it's to me sometimes more interesting to have more variation, more diversity, you know. So powerful, yes, but also I like it when we're flawed, not a perfect hero, you know, the sort of kind of Batman-y type character, someone who is struggling. They're trying to do the right thing, but they also have to do some bad stuff. And, you know, it's more interesting to play, and it's more like life.
But I wanted to be like The Rock, you know, Dwayne Johnson. I mean,
Yes.
I think
This is
everybody
always remember
Dreams
that.
like that,
everybody
right?
dreams of that.
Yes.
I don't. I'm the weird one. I wanted to be Gary Busey.
That's a rough role to play. So in Battletoads, you've actually played several characters, but one of the guys who does a lot of art for people on podcasts, his name is Graphic God, or known as Jay. He's a big fan of Julie Saturnins, if I said that correctly. I have a hard time saying the last name, but he's a huge
Yes.
fan of that character. How did you have fun playing that character? Was that like a really fun role?
Oh my God, I loved it. I mean, I walked into that audition and I thought this is some of the funniest writing I've done in a game, because I don't know why, but there aren't that many hilarious games out there. Like some are.
True.
A lot of the
Yeah.
Lego games are really funny, really, really well written by top comic writers. And this too, I thought this was hilarious. And AJ was awesome with his direction and his sensibility for all of the characters and the world of the game. And the director, Matthew, at least the director in the audition, Matthew Delamere, he's a sort of comic genius, and he helped as well. Yeah, it was hugely fun to play.
Yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you off, Gaz.
I
I'll
was going to
let
do
you-
your job for you and say shout out to the 230 people watching live. Hit that like button.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say though, I've met AJ. We've talked to AJ, and he's a fantastic guy. He's full of so much positive energy, and he just loves the creative arts and what he does, and he's amazing. And I'm glad you actually got to work with him. That must have been a lot of fun. When you're in your at home in your booth, does your husband critique you and be like, "No, do it this way," or "Do it this way"? Do you ever get feedback from him?
No, not on the whole. I push him away. So, no, usually it's on my own. Although over lockdown, I actually recorded him to get used to using my equipment and the software and stuff. I recorded 10-minute episodes of a one-man show that he did, and it was me who was doing the critiquing. He took it well.
So he might be in the next, I don't know, Last of Us Part 3, he might get a role somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, I might just talk to a few people.
That would be pretty cool.
What is your dream role as far as gaming is concerned? Is there a game you saw and you thought, damn, I'd love to have done that role? There must be one that bounces at you like, oh,
Well,
shit, I should have done that.
Oh, well, actually, one that just came to mind as you were saying that was Yennefer. Yeah, that's a great role.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting in The Witcher. Just trying to think. I mean, I always I love to play really smart, witty people who put people in their place, but also I don't know, sort of like if you could do the Miranda Priestley from Devil Wears Prada, Meryl Streep character, as a character in a game who maybe was an elf.
It was an elf.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That might be possible the next Elder Scrolls that comes out. Maybe you could get that role.
Yeah, I mean, I love those sort of people who are dry and have all the power, loads of gravitas and dry wit and that. But what I would really like more than just a role itself is to actually be in the room with another actor recording, because most of the time I'm on my own and maybe they play in the recording of the other actor. But
was this the case? But even pre-lockdown, this was the case?
Yeah. Because I think just for efficiency's sake, because sometimes your scenes are with lots of different people and they can't get in 20 actors in a booth on a day. So they record everybody separately. And then when you get to a scene where they have already recorded the other actor, they play them in and then you act with just their voice, which is helpful, but way better when you can just have them there in the room.
That's interesting you say that. That might lend itself to why the dialogue and I find in games is sometimes a bit unnatural.
Totally,
Yeah.
because it's difficult if if you don't know how the final scene is going to come together from a performance point of view, and also from a setting point of view, because sometimes the developers will say, oh, it's going to be on a street and there's battle everywhere, and so the level of the performance should be on a scale of 1 to 10, 8, and then it turns out that actually it should have been a level 4. It can seem really unnatural or forced, or definitely it's difficult to find synergy with all those different elements.
So do they ever go back and, let's say, the other person did their voice acting, you followed up with their script, and then they looked at it and said, you know what, we need them to go back and follow up with your script to match that intensity level? Do they ever do something like that, or vice versa?
Definitely, they do pickups at the end of the game. Once they've got most of the lines in, they will put the lines into the game and play it through and see how it's coming across, and then they'll literally just come up with a list of things that need to be redone in as exactly as you say it.
Okay.
Flamish in the chat has a question for you. He's a panel member on another show we do. I don't know if you really have a thought on this, but he asks, what did you think of Abby and how the character was portrayed, I think, in Last of Us 2?
I'm afraid I haven't played it, so I don't know.
And what would your favorite female character be in a game that you've ever played?
Favorite female character? I really enjoyed playing Claire in Crisis 3 because it was all mocap, so I got to be in the room with all the other actors, and it's always, as I said before, it's always better. And she was an interesting character. She was someone who was thrust into a difficult situation, a military situation, when she had a scientific background, and she had to step up and be part of this resistance movement, and find inner resources that she didn't know she had, and deal with some tough questions.
Do you play games with your children or your husband at home? And
Yes.
if so, what are some of your favorite games that you play with them?
Okay, so we love Skyrim, and when the kids were younger, we would just create characters that they wanted and go where they wanted us to go, and fight the way they wanted to. But now they're old enough to play, and then we just talk about it the whole time. We also play a lot of racing games. I'm so useless with names. What is it called? It'll come to me. A lot of racing games. Play The Sims. The kids have started to play Horizon Zero Dawn, which I did some roles in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They play, let's see. They play a lot of Nintendo. So they're doing Mario Kart. They're doing fighting games, a lot of fighting games. God, I forget all the names of the games now. What else do we play together? Oh, my husband plays different games with them that I'm not interested in, like army games. The ones that aren't violent, yeah. Oh, with my husband, we've played some games where there's a game where it's not acted at all. It's like you have to disarm a bomb. And so one person's on the screen sort of solving puzzles, and the other person has to read things, and you have to kind of work as a partner.
Oh yeah, I've got that VR game. It's a virtual reality game.
I think it is. Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's really fun. Really good game.
I've actually bought it, but never gone around to playing it. It's because I haven't found a friend to play that with me. Oh. Sad story. Someone cry for me, please.
That's a good one. The other one, could I say, one of my favorite moments in a game was PlayStation VR Worlds, and it's the shark dive. Oh my God. If you haven't played it, you got to play it.
I haven't played that.
And so what you do is you literally go on a dive under the water. You're in a shark cage, and you know that it's coming. You know that the shark is coming, but you don't know when, and you can see all around you. And I know it's a game, and I have never been so scared. What you should do is play it yourself, but then also video the person playing for when the shark actually comes up, because you just see people just
actually flinch. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, no, it's so immersive. I would love there to be more games like that were sort of long form that you really felt a part of, but that didn't give you motion sickness.
Yeah, I think virtual reality is very well. It's at its infancy. We're getting there, and I think that's the zen of immersion. That when the headsets don't make the fidelity is there, and you stop maybe feeling things. I know there has to be a limit there. You don't want to actually feel like you got stabbed, or yeah, when you don't feel sick. But that's the zen of game, that Ready Player One type level of stuff. One thing I was as you were talking to me about the challenges of voice recording, and one of the limitations being you're not in a room surrounded by other voice actors. I think it's kind of silly, or well, maybe not silly, but I think it's strange that in the gaming sphere we haven't utilized virtual reality more, because essentially, as voice actors, you can strap these headsets in from home, and there you are with the other actors in a virtual environment. That's the closest you'll get to see other voice actors do it at the same time. Logistically, you said it was really hard to have all these actors in one room, but you could virtually.
That would be really cool. Yes. Yeah.
Anyone who's listening to this, I copyright that idea. Do not.
I've said it before. You can't claim it. Sorry.
Damn it, Fred.
Now, would you rather have a constant TV series, a film, or voiceover for if you were able to just from here on out, if you had to pick one, which version would it be? And I know it's hard, because I know it's great to have that flexibility to be able to go wherever you want, and when the parts are perfect for you. But if you can only pick one. Okay,
with the voiceover, what would that be? What kind of voiceover would it be?
Okay, well, let's close it. Well, see, and that's the other portion of it, because it could be a voiceover on a cartoon series, or voiceover on a video games, or at least within the video game industry. But that we'd have to separate those two, because just like
I think I'm gonna go First Instinct. First Instinct TV series, because you get to create a community. It's been a goal of mine for a long, long time. I love the idea of being part of a company that you get to be with, every day, and you get to go on a journey with those characters and those other actors and directors and everybody else. I would love to do that. Yeah. If I had to choose.
So I'm gonna because then I'm gonna break it down then, because I was gonna split it up into 4 as opposed to 3, because TV series could be both, like we said, voiceover and live action. So from your answers, I'm gonna say that's live action then.
I think live action, because there's something, the kid in me, every time I step onto a set, is still like, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that part of it, because I used to do theater, and that was always for me, that was the coolest thing, was to be able to interact. And because it was theater, you were able to, after the show, interact with the crowd, because they would come over and, oh, this was cool, and we're talking with everybody, and it was really cool to see that. And I'm sure with the live series, you guys did the same thing with the live studio audience.
Yeah. If you have a studio audience, I mean, more and more shows are now done without it, but you still get the live interaction. At least when you do a scene, you still get reaction afterwards, even if it's silent during the moment. You get it in rehearsal, you get it when you watch playback, and you, unlike voiceover, as I said, you get to act with other people, and you get to feed off of other people's energies and create something you didn't expect when you walked on set.
Okay. Yeah, it's a family. It turns into a family like that. It's awesome.
Which voice actor do you hate the most?
Oh,
that's an awkward question.
You could say it, Gaz.
I can't think of a voice actor I hate. The only thing I can think of is a voice quality which I hate, which is, I don't know, just a shrill, high-pitched, awful
Fran
voice.
Drescher. Like Fran Drescher?
That would, she's fun to imitate, but it wouldn't
mean,
be my choice to listen to for an hour, say.
I love her, so don't get me wrong. I love her, but I know what everybody's saying when they're like, "Oh my God, her voice." I don't know.
I mean,
Sometimes
there's what's great about the human voice is that there are so many different ones, and that actually with your eyes closed, even if people sound similar, you can tell who's who. Like we have an amazing ability to differentiate voice, and so all the whole spectrum of voices are what make it interesting. If everybody sounded like a deep male movie announcer, it would be boring. So it's nice to have the variety.
Midway. Oh, I'm sorry, Kosha, for cutting you off there. Midway rephrased Gaz's question and said, "What are your pet peeves in voice acting?" I guess maybe voices that you would have to act.
Shrill voices, she mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean that I would have to do, or in the job itself?
Or I guess like if you were like playing a video game, and this is, just in general, what are some of the voices that might make you say, "Oh," like you might want to move your headset for a moment, kind of.
That sounded more of an aroused sound. You should not do voice acting, Clownz.
I think whenever it sounds really stilted and just wooden, if it's just bad acting, I find that frustrating to play, because there's so many good actors out there. What else? Really bad accents. I'm probably guilty of a few myself, but hearing them, I'm always like, "Ooh, it's really bad."
Well, I watched Rounders with John Malkovich. He's an incredible actor, but that Russian accent that he put on there, I say Russian in inverted commas, was the most terrible thing I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah, it's really hard to do an accent well, and I know a lot of times I've been in a session where I go in thinking I'm going to do American, maybe a bit of British, bit of New York, whatever, and then they just out of left field say, "Can you do Nigerian?" Or
I can do Nigerian.
A random place, can you do Estonian or something? And then I try it, and it's the worst thing ever. And they're like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just a small scene." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm going to be offensive. I don't want to do it."
Kosha, if I do a good Nigerian accent, can you put a good word in for me?
Well, I realize that's probably not the right thing to say at this moment in time, but there we are.
Do your children rate your voices when they're playing the games?
So they're hilariously honest, particularly my 6-year-old. He'll listen to something and he'll go, "Mummy, it's a bit bad, but it's mostly good. I like what you did here, but I don't like what you did here."
Wait, your kids have a British accent?
Yes, because my husband is British and my kids are half and half, but they're raised here, so they have these weird English accents. I can't even imitate them well enough. Oh God.
You know what? That was throwing me off as you were speaking, because you said something and you said loads, and Americans don't say loads, and I was thinking, wait, what? Wait, where's she from?
Yes, I've lived here a long time, so I've basically picked up loads of stuff. It's gotten to the point where sometimes I'll read an American script that's got a turn of phrase that I haven't used for a while, and it'll suddenly seem foreign, and that is a weird thing about living not in your home country for 15 years.
15 years. Wow.
Yeah.
If AJ's watching this, does AJ decide who gets a job? Hey, AJ, listen to me. If I do a Nigerian next time, will you hire me, please? I learned this from my best friend who's in Nigeria, and he hates me for it. Shout out to Christian from Abuja.
Well, I got some pretty bad accents. I mean, when I try to do British, I sound Australian, but Australians tell me I sound British, and British people tell me I don't sound like them. I go, "Bloody right." And they're like,
okay.
"That's terrible. That doesn't fit anywhere."
Let's have Dreadpool. Can we hear one of your accents?
Yes, please.
I have a very bad Scottish accent.
Okay, yes.
All right. So let's see. Do you have some water?
That's actually really good.
Yeah,
That's
not
actually not bad.
That's actually
Yeah,
very
that's
good.
pretty good.
I had a friend that came over from there. She actually was a scientist, or at least studying at USF, and she found a
Cure for the
um,
coronavirus. Sorry.
no. She found an anomaly in one of the cancer treatments or cells, whatever. So they named this thing. I forgot what it was. It was so many years ago, and so I would sit there and try to mimic her, and I would tell her jokes, like just bad jokes, but and I would try to do that, and she literally had her family come over, and it was Thanksgiving week, so we invited her to Thanksgiving and her family, and she had me tell one of the bad jokes to her mother, and I was starting to speak in my Scottish language, and she's like, yeah, no. And then I'm telling her the joke, and I'm scooting away, and she's like trying to think of it. She's like thinking it was a fashion joke, and I was like, and then she found out how dirty the joke was when it popped in her head. But that was, that's how I learned a little bit of that accent. I mean, I can
That is
always
the
do,
best way, for sure. Listen to people from the place. Yes.
and
I
that's and
can.
that's
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dripple.
I was gonna say, and that's what I do when I go around, because I'll have like a hillbilly accent, I'll do like the New York accent, but I'm around people to pick it up and listen. And when I go to Europe, I try to listen to their accents, and I try to do that on purpose, not to make fun of them. It's just to learn and blend in better.
Definitely. It's the best way to learn. Did you see that film called In a World, written by and starring Lake Bell? It's all about, it's a great film. It's an indie film about her as a voice artist. And one of the things she does is carry around a little recorder with her, just literally recording everybody's voice, because she can do all these amazing accents and stuff. And it's true, if you're interested in accents, that's the best way to learn, for sure.
I
I'm
had
actually
a.
interested in voiceover and
I
accents.
think everybody that loves video games likes voiceover, Dread. I think we're all into it, except
Yeah,
Crispy,
we are.
because he hasn't really. I don't know what Crispy's doing over there. He's gotten really silent.
Oh,
Um,
Red, come on now.
I'm
Everybody
so
else has
glad you
got
called
good
out
questions.
Crispy, where's your accent? Please do it for us.
I don't have any like foreign
Give us
accents.
Give us your
Kapak the
Connecticut accent.
car, Kapak the car, like Boston, and I reckon y'all, yeah. That's
Nice.
like
howdy,
Right.
y'all.
but
Like
that's
that?
the beauty
Sound
of
like-
living in
what was
America.
that?
It's like you have so many accents just in our country alone that it's like you can pick up a lot of different things. Like I used to be able to say, and maybe it's because I played a game or something that had like an Irish accent. I used to be good at that. Now I can't get it in my head right now. So
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's
was
one.
that?
That's one accent I can't do is Irish. My wife
I
keeps
can do a
making fun of
little
me.
bit.
She's like, try to do Irish, and I'm like, and I do something. And it's always Scottish, that always pop out. And then she's like, "That's not Irish."
What
And I'm listening. I can't
what
do it.
Dreadpool, Crispy, and Gaz don't realize is that one day when they go to apply to become a voiceover actor, this is going to be on their audition tapes.
Yeah.
I'd be more or less like the world premiere. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
that type of
wow.
person.
Do that
Wow.
again. Say that again.
World premiere.
Wow.
See, I was
We
trying to
should do a
work that one.
podcast.
Yeah, I was trying to work that. I was
That
trying
There's
to
more
work it in.
bass in your larynx than there is in my speakers right
That's
now.
amazing. I wish I could make that sound.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
I
I
was
might
trying
need
to
to
do
hire
it
you
before.
for some trailers, actually.
I
Crispy.
was trying to do the In a World with
Yeah.
Lake Bell.
Yeah,
But-
that's it.
There you go.
In a world where fire burns.
Sounds like a
I envy all of
documentary.
you guys, because I have the most feminine voice of a man you've ever met. In fact, the top comment in one of my videos was, "Your voice is the definition of unisex."
Oh,
So I guess that leaves you open to a lot of roles to play.
Me? Yes, maybe. I am. I can do a. What's that pikey accent in Snatch? What am I gonna do with the caravan's gone off fucking wheels? Who's that?
Well,
Who's that?
that was-
What's the Snatch? Tell me someone here has watched Snatch.
Nope,
'cause
I have not.
nope.
I've not. I've lost faith in humanity.
I'm sorry.
Kosha, I can see you shaking your head. That is horrible. watch Snatch, and then thank me. It's amazing. It's amazing. You'll love it.
I could do
Go on.
Kermit the Frog
Oh, go on.
sometimes.
Go on.
I'm Kermit the Frog. Oh boy.
What?
It's really
That's
good.
amazing.
That's really good.
Thank you.
That's sick. That's
And
nice.
then I used to be able to do like a broken English, like Italian American Brooklyn English accent, because my dad was from Italy and he grew up in Brooklyn, so he had the accent. But then I kind of like lost it over the years. But he used to be able to do it like, "Hey, forget about it. What are you doing over there?" Like that.
Nice. Yes.
None
Yeah,
of us are getting jobs, by the way.
No,
No.
we've all
None of us.
failed already. We failed the audition.
We're stuck
Um,
here.
So, Kosha, in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, who did you voice?
So the main character I voiced was called Darth Nurin. That sounds weird. N-U-R. N-U-R-I-N. That was my main character. She's obviously a Sith. And I played a bunch of other characters, but that was an early game, and I hadn't gotten into the habit of writing down all the characters I've played. And when I look for it on YouTube, I can't find them. So I can't remember.
That's
It was
okay.
a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, you played a lot of characters over the years, based on your credits that we've looked at, and I was amazed to see like how many things you were actually involved in. And I was thinking to myself, Kosha has to like video games to do this many roles, because we've interviewed some people that have done voiceovers or have written stuff, and we asked them about video games, and they know like nothing about video games. One person was like, "Oh, you guys play video games? Is that what you guys do?"
And,
was like-
and we were talking about movies at the time.
Yeah.
We're asking about movies and characters. Oh, so you guys really like video games, don't you? So
I don't think it's a sign that Kosha likes video games. You might just be getting paid very well.
Well, there are definitely a lot of actors who do voiceover for games and don't play at all. There are a lot of them, and they do it really well. So I don't think you have to be enjoy gaming to voice it well. But I definitely do like games. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm sort of hardcore, but I definitely, when I come across a game I love, I become obsessed and will, pull all-nighters, and just that's all I can think about. But it
Do you think that helps? It helps your job?
yeah, I
or
definitely
helps you
do, because
perform?
when they go yeah, so the player character goes up to a bar and they need a quest, and like I know what that's about because I do, I've done it, so I know what that, they don't, it's like there's a shorthand.
Yeah.
And also,
you know the mechanics of it.
exactly. So like also I did a game called The Crew 2, and I've played a few racing games. I mean, they're pretty straightforward, but in this one I played someone called Alexis, and she basically, you could choose to do one of 4 types of racing, and if you chose my one, she'd be your coach basically. And so I understood the dialogue that was before a race and the one that's after a race, and the points of the writing is to get the player to do X or whatever. And so I know when you're playing a game, and or let's say if you're doing a first person shooter and you're trying to find something, and you've got characters going, you're looking in the wrong place, look in this place, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it makes it faster for me to understand the point of the line.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because I play.
I need
Because
to
if someone who
go-
doesn't play that, that'd be weird actually. Like
Well, I mean,
doing
that's
the
what-
guiding voice.
That is what the director's there for, is to say you're guiding the player to do, so someone's always there to help the actors, even if they aren't familiar with the scenario. But as I say, because I play, it does make it a little easier.
I need you to go over there and grab my leg and bring it back.
Exactly.
So also I was looking, when I looked through your credits, you also did something to Forza Horizon 3. I
Yes.
think it was, and I might be saying this wrong, but Radio Ident, was that?
That's right. Yeah. So I haven't been able to find samples of this, but basically when you would listen to, one of the features of that game was that you could listen to music within the game, like actual, pop music, but all different types of genres. And so they had different radio channels. And so I was one of the people that would basically be a DJ sort of doing connecting idents for the channel, for the music, for the game itself, sort of in between the songs, if you see what I mean.
That is so cool. That means I've heard you so much without knowing it, because I
Yeah,
played
I
the
think I was
shit
on
out of that
two
game.
different channels, but I can't remember which ones now. Yeah, so I will have been in that. Yeah.
I think one
That
of
is so
the
surreal to me.
I think one of the things you said in that game, and I might be wrong, but if memory recalls correctly for me, I think it was like you are listening to Radio Ident was one of the things you said.
Yeah, I think so. I think I would say you're listening to something like, you're listening to modern beats with blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
Kosha, you sound just like Cortana as well, as you said that.
Mhm.
That's a role that's very. I mean, I'm quite surprised that you are not playing that. That I was just looking to wait. Has she voiced Cortana? Because yeah, you sound remarkably like her. I guess that was one of the roles you'd love to play as well, because that's a very strong female role, but flawed because she's actually an AI who's flawed, she's going through something called rampancy,
Yeah.
and she's evil. Maybe there's layers to that. That'd be really good.
Oh, I can
Microsoft,
tell
if
you.
you're listening to that,
Oh, go.
Kosha's
Yeah, I'm
Kosha's the
available.
one.
Kosha's
I'm
available.
teasing.
Um,
Yeah.
there's a game that's about to come out. I'm allowed to say, I think it's called The Ascent. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And I play in it a character called the Imp, which is short for something, but it's basically an AI. And what's cool about this character is that it goes from being just mechanical, robotic, to actually becoming upgraded and having its own sort of consciousness, and has a fascination with death and killing, and that humans are made from squishy biological stuff, right? And so it's really fun because I got to do the change from being robot to being this thinking, feeling machine who thought death was fascinating. So it was a bit crazy. That was a good.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was the transition like, without giving away too much of any plot points? Was there a transition period, or were you this once like cold robot, then you sentient, realized that humans are a waste of space?
So I think because I haven't played the game yet. I don't think it's out yet, but
It's not out till 2021.
yeah. So not out. So basically,
You're losing your job now.
I know.
That's fine. That's
The director would say to me, so this is pre whatever it was. Let's say it was called upgrade, pre-upgrade. So then I would know that all of those lines are literally just say the lines as a robot, and then post-upgrade would be much more fluent and more just conversational, and sometimes would become a bit more knowing or emotional or manipulative, that kind of stuff.
I always find that weird that AI in fan fiction, when it starts to realize how much it hates humanity, the way it expresses it is it does so in very human ways. I guess it's for the audience to understand the rage or the anger and the sentiment. But I just found that weird. I thought that you should carry on the cold, like kind of calculated look. But I guess it doesn't make you. I don't know. I think you can enhance, the threatening nature of AI by retaining that kind of cold level. But for some reason, directors always tend to opt for angry human, angry screaming robot human. It's a weird thing. But I really, now that you mentioned that, I can't wait to play the Ascent and play the Imp and see, witness the Imp's transition into.
Yeah.
I'm excited now too.
I'm more
really
excited than I was.
Yeah.
It looks like a great game.
Yeah, she keeps calling the human flesh. She says things like, so flesh, what should we do? Whatever, she talks, says sort of outrageous things, but it's totally normal for her. And the way she witnesses death is, oh, so much blood. It's so interesting. She's sort of, as I say, kind of a morbid fascination with the breakableness of humans.
That's really awesome.
Is it part of? Cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Clownz.
Oh, this might be a little bit off topic from what we were last talking about, but I know that everybody in your house, plays video games and they enjoy them. Are you guys excited for next generation, like the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5?
Oh yeah, we'll be getting definitely PlayStation 5. The boys are trying to get. We already have 2 consoles. We have a Nintendo and a PlayStation. So, we got to we got to focus. So,
Well,
but yes.
you
Yes,
you
we'll be
did
doing it. We'll be
you
doing it.
did mention you had little children, right? One of them was 6.
Yeah, 6 and 9.
Okay, so we got a perfect console for them. The Amico. Have you ever heard of that?
No, what's that? What's that?
That is the new Intellivision that Tommy
What's an
Tallarico is
Intellivision?
pushing out, and
Right.
it's all digital. It's you got the little controllers and everything, and you can play it as a grandparent versus a 20-year-old versus a 4-year-old, and everybody still has a chance at winning or playing together. So
Oh, cool.
it's
I'll check
coming
that
out
out.
next year. Yeah, you should look it up. Definitely. Now the real question is it part of your contract? And if it's not, you should make it part of your contract. When you do a voiceover for one of the games, do you get a copy of the game?
You would think. But I think the number of times I've gotten a game I can count on my hand, I think. Very few. This is where the industry needs to get together. So at the moment there's a Screen Actors Guild. There's television, for television and for stage, but there is no particular guild for this realm of work. And so it is not standardized as it should be. And that's something that certainly a group of us actors in London have been trying to work toward with equity, is to try and not just getting games, but just the rates and the hours and the whole way that actors are used and paid and compensated. Because as I can't remember which one of you said, but how big the industry is, that actors should be, commensurately compensated.
I agree, because I think, Coach, just from doing the news this week in the video game industry, um, next generation, they want to raise the prices to like $70 a game on a lot of them, but Activision Blizzard in 3 months made $1.2 billion in microtransactions. That's just a
Right.
microtransaction. So that's not even
Not the
for this,
games.
not even the sale of the game. That's just, and
Something like a microtransaction when you're talking billions, isn't it? Sounds weird.
well, it is. That's what it was,
Cumulative mega
and I just feel bad because I think, in the game industry, there's a lot of smaller studios that, can't compete with that. Then there's voice actors that probably don't get paid, enough for what they do. And there's developers that work for those companies that I feel, should get a pay raise because this company's pulling so much money. And it just, I don't know. It's just the way that corporate America has become over here. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately it's the nature, I guess, of the business, and I do hope that you guys are able to form some type of group reunion. I know that somebody told me, at least in America, there's something called SAG-AFTRA. I'm not sure if you ever
Yes.
heard of it, and I guess
Yes, I'm a member.
that's okay. So
Yeah.
it's not the same thing as
What is that?
like a Screen Actors
This-
Guild, then?
It is the Screen Actors Guild. Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of TV and Radio Actors, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so they say, so there are, they have a lot of power in America, but over here in the UK, not so much. But still, I mean, I think I haven't worked in LA as a voice actor in games, so I can't speak from that. But I do think even over there, there are more standards, industry standards, that are in place that we're still working to get over here. So for instance, one of the things we do a lot of in games, I call it vocal stunt work, which is a lot of screaming, a lot of vocally demanding stuff. I mean, you're in like the Star Wars thing I told you about. There's a lot of battle games where you're literally at a 10 with the screaming and everything else. It does take some skill to do that safely, but if you're doing that for several hours in a row, you're going to fry your voice. And
Yeah.
there should be, for instance, standards for how long an actor is able to, allowed to do that kind of work, if they're paid extra for that kind of work. And if it means that they then can't do their commercial that they're contracted to do because they've blown it on the game, those are all things to take into consideration.
That's crazy then. Are you saying then that so you don't get any compensation for your degrading voice because you've done it over a period of time? 'Cause
No,
that's your livelihood.
Exactly. It's something I feel pretty strongly about, because there's been so many games that I've done where there's one game, it was a motorcycle game, and I had to scream, I think something like 4 continuous hours. Obviously it was variations of that, but I had voice problems for the next couple of days.
Ooh.
And I was supporting with my diaphragm and everything else. I mean, but you just will hurt your voice. Those sorts of things, like if you're on a film set and you're in a SAG film, you've got a SAG contract, there are people looking out for you all the time, with those sorts of things. You have to take a break at a certain amount. If you do stunt work, you've got to have some, there are rules in place to protect everybody. But
not here in the UK. That's pretty bad.
Not yet.
So
I guess it's a good thing that you get the freedom to do things. You don't have someone have to deal with the bureaucracy of it. Hey, you can't do this. But I guess maybe that's a problem in the US. But then that's a crazy thing for me, because in any vocation, if you're doing something excessively that can have an impact on your long-term ability to do that job, then that's weird that it's not governed or there's no regulation there.
Exactly. I mean, I think at the moment it's actors and agents and sometimes companies like Side and OMUK who are advocates for actors who are trying to, we have to sort of speak up and unite to protect each other in those circumstances until we have something in place.
Is that community quite sorry? I'll just very quickly ask, do you feel that the voice acting community, maybe particularly in England, is that quite unified, or do you have a really cool kind of unity there, or is it all quite scattered? Or
I would say that I mostly come into contact with North Americans over here because most of the actors I do games with are, as I say, North American. Because a lot of games made in London are for the American market or are written for American characters. So that community I know well, and we see each other again and again at the same jobs. But the wider community, voiceover community, I wouldn't say I have much contact with, because it is often just you and the engineer in a booth. It doesn't tend to be a group exercise unless you're on maybe an animation series, then it's different.
This is where my VR idea comes in again. Guys, I need to be a millionaire. What am I doing?
Please do. That would be so fun.
So the industry has, one of those bad phrases / bad words when it comes to gaming, and that's crunch. Obviously, you guys, when you're doing your acting, it's usually before all the crunch happens with the video game side, but you feel that effect also, because you are talking about, pushing for hours. Does it feel like you're in that crunch too, that they're trying to get your voices recorded right away to shift it over to the rest of the departments?
It depends on the game and how well organized they are. On a big game that I did recently, it seemed like they were doing so many re-records and
Cyberpunk, yes, that's the one.
No, I don't think
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
That's not it.
But lips are sealed. But generally, what happens is on the big games, like so for The Division, that was another really big open world game, and they just have probably tens of thousands of lines of dialogue, and they have expansions and everything else. And I don't know from a developer's perspective, but they had a deadline, and then suddenly things aren't going well, and they have to finish by another deadline, and they've got to get all these lines recorded. So sometimes, yes, you definitely feel the crunch, and you definitely feel like what used to be a fun session for 3 hours or whatever, where you get to explore a little bit and you finish comfortably in 3 hours. Then when they get the developers on the line with you, you very much feel like, gotta push it out, gotta get it done, because everybody's against the clock. But I wouldn't say that that's the norm. That's at a certain stage in a big games development that happens.
Okay, so as a follow-up, because a lot of people like to speak for the creators, the developers, the actors, anybody that they have nothing to do with, but they want to speak up for them because crunch is so bad. In real life, it happens. Sometimes you have mandatory overtime, but when you have it, you get compensated for it, correct? To
Oh yeah.
put in
Yeah,
the
you
extra
get
time.
compensated for every hour or extra hour that you work. Yeah.
That's brilliant. See, I don't understand. So I don't know if you know this, Kosha. You probably do. You must be aware of some of the sentiment in social media as far as the gaming industry is concerned. There have been a couple of studios who have been at the firing line about this whole crunch business. They, the staff are working overtime, and I think there's an echo chamber where everyone is kind of unjustifiably making this out to be like this bad, evil thing that's happening in the gaming industry, but in other industries it happens all the time. Crunch is part and parcel of what you do, and you don't get compensation for a lot of different fields. So it's interesting that you say that. I just think, and I've seen this, observed this from content creators or people in the field, that they're okay with it as long as you're obviously adequately compensated. It is a problem. It sucks when it happens, but what are your views on that? That okay? Do you believe that sometimes it's just I've kind of actually led you here by giving you my opinion on this, so this is unfair. But do you think it's an unfortunate reality? It's just something you have to deal with, or maybe companies should be better regulating that, making sure that doesn't happen? What are your views on crunch or croak, as it is in your case?
Yeah. I mean, I can mostly speak from the actor's point of view, which is our pay structure is we get an hourly fee and then there's a buyout. And that's basically it for us. From the developer's perspective, which I haven't firsthand experienced, but have spoken to developers about it, you know, generally people shouldn't be exploited and be asked to work above and beyond what they're being compensated for.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you're not going to get a very good work environment if you don't treat people well.
Yeah.
And that knowing that you're going to have a period right before release where it's going to go crazy, those infrastructures should be in place to allow for the compensation that's needed when it comes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think. I mean, that's easy to say from the outside. I'm sure there are unique challenges that these developers face, but yeah, I mean, in general, people shouldn't be exploited.
Anywhere, but yeah,
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because even where I'm with my background and the different avenues of work that I've done in my past, it's always been, part of the deal. This is what's going to happen. When we were doing theater, we had what we called Hell Week, which was we did everything over and over again. We would get yelled at about every little minute detail that we were given instructions on and missed, with the next, because you're just going over everything and they're picking you apart. But that's part of the deal, and that's what some people don't see. That's why I want to make sure that I got it across, and then you could answer it freely as to the same, because you're still getting paid for it. It's not like they're not paying you.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I say, the jobs that I work on, that's how it works. But I know that probably on a smaller indie game where they don't have as big of a budget, and maybe they don't go through actors' agents, maybe they have a different setup. Maybe they just have a flat fee. But that's the actor's choice to choose to do that job. But I personally would want to do the ones that pay by the hour.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense for sure. One thing I wanted to, I mean, I'm not sure if it's still going on in the industry or if there's any changes for this as far as voice actors are concerned in general. But I remember when I talked to Steve Downs, wow, it was in 2015, I think, right before Halo 5, I had a talk with Steve Downs on the channel. And one thing he mentioned was at the time back then, voice actors didn't really get residuals on games. And I'm not sure if the industry has changed yet or if it's still working towards that kind of change. Because I know the video game industry has exploded. They said that the income in the video game industry is bigger than Hollywood right now. So I would only think it's fair, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but I think it would only be fair if voice actors were treated just as if it was a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so 2 points there, I'd say, is that at the moment, me personally, and what I understand is the standard for a lot of actors in the UK, you get an hourly fee and you get a buyout. It's usually a standard buyout fee that covers everything. So there are no residuals as far as I have experienced. When you are possibly a name, like in, was it Willem Dafoe? I can't remember, but if you're a sort of Hollywood actor and you're doing a lead in a game, maybe then you get to negotiate something else. But
Okay.
for most of us who are, even, working at the top tier in games in the UK, that's still basically how it is, buyouts. What was the second point? It was about, I can't remember now. It was about, I can't remember. It was about residuals, but I can't remember.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's a very corporate talk right now. We're talking about video games and that. And we're like residuals and contracts, and it's just crazy. But I guess it's a sign of how mature we are. I feel so mature just listening to you guys talk about this stuff.
All right, so
I wanted to make screaming noises on here, but okay.
Can we break into something else that it's been bothering me this whole time? And I know it has nothing to do with Battletoads.
Okay.
What's that?
But Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes.
Can we talk about that? Or is that still because of where the movie's at?
I can't tell. I mean, I personally don't know anything about the plot because they don't let us, so the way it works with these big things, they're so worried about leaks that they basically give you a redacted script. So you literally only see the scenes that you're in and nothing else. And they make you sign a million NDAs, so you can't talk about it. But it looks great. Can't wait to see it.
Sorry, I don't know. I know what's the premise behind that question. Sorry, do you?
So I am, at least I filmed for Wonder Woman 2. Whether or not I will end up on the cutting room floor remains to be seen. So,
oh wow! If you were in that, I will definitely watch it. If you're not, I can't be asked.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Gal Gadot. I'm only here for Kosha.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not a massive role, but it was a fun day on set. Very much enjoyed it. And I did see the Amazons when I think I can say that because they're just in the film, right?
Yes.
I saw some very, very tall, beautiful women walking by into their trailer. And I saw Chris Pine walk by looking dreamy. So there you go.
Oh, that's cool.
I could just picture it now, Gaz in the movie theater in the UK. If if the theaters are ever open back up and it's in the theaters, Gaz is gonna jump up and be like, "I talked to her. I talked to Kosha.
I know her." I just leave the movie. Yeah, but no, that's so cool. I'm gonna look out for you. So now I've got the Ascent to look out for. Cyberpunk, obviously, because you've given that away. And
I haven't. Let's be clear. I have not.
She's not.
You said it.
You made the assumption.
Cyber what?
I never heard of this cyber. I can't talk about that. Yes, I don't think we.
So
I don't know.
basically,
I'm just guessing. Then now that Kosha's so defensive, I think I've got it right. Now I'm messing with you. I'm going to stop now before.
Well, let's not get her in trouble for anything either.
Yeah.
So basically, you were looking up at the Amazons, and then you still ended up looking down at Chris Pine. Is that how it happened? I mean, he's 6'1", you're 5'3". You're still looking up at him, but yet you look. Amazons are 6+.
Yeah, they were some amazing looking women. Yes, and I just could only think, what's that like to be that tall? Yeah, a different world.
They would probably say, "What's that like to be that short?" You know what I mean?
It's good on planes and cars. Yeah.
I know.
Well, I mean, don't feel bad. I'm short too. When I met Dreadpool in person, I looked up and I thought he was like the big green giant because he's so tall. I'm like 5'5", almost 5'6", and he's like, I don't know, 6 foot. It feels like 6'9", but because I'm looking up like this.
I hate you, Dread. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I could literally put my arm and rest on his head.
We
but
got,
you don't do that to
should have got a
friends.
picture of that.
It would have been funny, but yeah, nah, not when you first meet
Well, I have
somebody.
terrible friends then because that's what they do to me all the time.
So, Kosha, one of the latest games that you worked on, at least that I have seen, is a game called The Suicide of Rachel Foster.
Mhm.
How was that to work on? Because that seems like a different take of a game, because it seems kind of like more like a darker story that they were trying to tell. Was that a challenge for you? Any challenges with that one?
Yeah, so that game, I was not sent, if I recall correctly, I think I was sight reading the lines on the day that we recorded. And so I walked in and I was told the scenario of the game. I think the developer was in the room on the day. And I had auditioned, so I knew the kind of overview of the character and of the story, but I didn't know specifically what I was going to be saying. And they did tell me it was a, walking first person simulator, and it was kind of, the setting was like The Shining, so an abandoned family hotel. Main character's trapped in a snowstorm and has to uncover terrible truths of her past. So it was quite an emotional role. It starts off sort of kind of dry, and she's got a sense of humor and she's quite sarcastic. But then as she discovers the truth about the past, it becomes very emotional. And any time that you have to be basically cry in a role, whether it's voice or on camera, it's very exposing and you feel really vulnerable. But it has to be done. That's the only way, so I have to basically find a way to connect emotionally with the character. And then even though there are, a bunch of people around watching and stuff, try and just be in it and accept what's going on, and just try to do it authentically.
I always found that weird. I found that very fascinating that actors and actresses can do this. I would think, so just playing scenarios in my head, that I would like to think of a scenario, maybe not even related to the role I'm playing at, just to invoke that kind of emotion. So if something crying, so maybe like something really serious to rile myself. Do you do that, or do you have to think of the source material? Do you think, I'm just gonna get really morbid now, like close one passing away, that would invoke, because it's serious business, you're surrounded by people around you, you need to make sure you start bawling your eyes out, get the emotion out. Let me think of something, because at the moment I that's what I would do, as a veteran actor that I am. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I would do. Do you do that? Do you think of like, okay, let me think of something really horrible and just get into the zone? But
So it depends. It depends on the scenario. So in Suicide of Rachel Foster, when I had to get emotional, I had a monologue. So I only had myself and what I was saying. Sometimes you have the other actor that can really help. But if, as I say, if you're just on your own, because I was reading the scene for the first time, it had that kind of first, the immediate effect of, it was, I basically just try to imagine if I was in that scenario and this happened, and what, and then I feel the sort of emotion starting to bubble, and I try and stay with it and give into it. I don't know, it feels physiological. Sometimes I can feel it happening, and I try to have no judgment of how I sound or look, and I just try and stay in it. Luckily, Mark, who directed that, is really sensitive, kind guy, so he stays in it with me and he's supportive. And when you trust,
but
the
how?
people,
What does he do? It's like just
so he's trying to deal with getting the performance he wants. He's also dealing with the technical of going, we can't have you totally sobbing in tears here. We just need a little bit of emotion in the voice. How do you say that to an actor without shutting them down? So he's very sensitive to where I am, and the way that he speaks to me, he'll be like, okay, oh, that's beautiful. That's great. Stay in it. Just pull it back a little bit. He sort of gets into the same, he's very sympathetic. So he gets into, it's really important in those kind of scenes where you're literally bawling with tears. Even though you're just imagining the situation, you're feeling real feelings. It's not like, so I wouldn't say that in Rachel Foster I was thinking of anything but the story, But when you're dealing with basic things like loss or discovering someone you loved isn't who you thought they were, those are things that we can relate to, I think, on a basic level. So that's what I think I'm trying to tap into.
Have
Okay.
you fallen deep into it where even your director hasn't been able to pull you out, where you actually had to stop and shut it down to let you process it again? Because like you said, you're getting into it, you're establishing feelings either via the character's feelings or your own personal feelings to get you there, because you are portraying that character. It is your feelings. You know what I mean? But within the story or within life that you're reacting upon, have you gotten too deep where you just could not get back out of, and you had to shut down and break down and then pull back out?
I would say that it's actually it's with that same director. It wasn't a game, but it was a novel that had been made into a kind of audio play, and it was really dark. It was a thriller, and I had to get extremely emotional, really dark. And the only way to make it real was to really go there. And I wouldn't say I couldn't be pulled out, but I would definitely say that I had worked myself up so that I was literally like sort of sobbing, screaming. It was like the climax of the piece. And you could see that even though we had got the scene, it was in the bag, it was still there in the room. I mean, I'm still physically recovered. An emotion is actually a physical thing.
Yeah.
So you could see that I'm still like, and I had to sort of take a moment to calm down, just let it go. It just stays there for a bit, and then it dissipates.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's a great question by Dreadpool.
Yeah, I've never been in that situation myself. I have yet to portray a character like that I've had to do that, and it's always fascinated me. And I don't know if it's a morbid way, but the lead singer from Korn, Jonathan Davis, he sang "Daddy." Okay, and at the end of the song, "Daddy" is about what happened to him when he was younger. Okay, at the end of the song, he literally breaks down, and they just let it go. And they left it in as part of the end of the song. He's crying, screaming, and everything, breakdown. They couldn't do anything to him or help him out or anything. They just let him finish it off. That's why that question popped in, because it's always sat with me in the back of my mind. Always. I've never been through something like that, and I wouldn't want anybody to go through something like that. But it was just, he got so far into the song that songs are part of our emotions, just like acting is, and that's where he got to. That's why I asked that question.
I think that's amazing. I've never. Sorry, Kosha, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that this is part of the craft. Is that always in the actor's mind, you've got one side that's the emotional feeling in the moment, and you've got the other side that's going, make sure you're close enough to the mic, make sure you're not popping your P's, listen to the direction. Okay, we're moving on, modulate the performance. So you've got these sort of two sides that are always going. And the challenge is to try and find a happy marriage so that the analysis isn't too strong or the emotion isn't too strong.
Yeah, so the emotion is guided by your analysis. That's amazing. I always thought that was the case. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a psychopath. I always do that. Even though I'm not in a movie, I'll think about scenario, and I'll or imagine a fictional scenario, and I get so wound up in it. Maybe I should get into film, and then I was just like the reactions kind of emanated in real life. And then I just thought, and I've always thought about that. And you're the first person to have ever kind of given me that insight. I've seen so many Hollywood, actors talk about this, but not in the nuanced way you've explained it. That lingering feeling, how it's so guttural and so visceral that it stays with you. And then the whole point about what you just mentioned about reconciling the analytical bit, and then it's a bit like schizophrenia, isn't it? It's like I'm half acting, half in the zone, half trying to guide myself. That's crazy. Well, that's a testament to your skill set. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Kosha, I know that we're kind of like getting almost to halfway past the 2 hour, almost past the hour and a half mark. And I don't want to keep you if you got stuff to do today. But before we start wrapping it up, I was gonna ask you if I don't know if you can do um you know what's her name, Julie Satterling's voice, and say you're watching Four Guys with Quarters.
Okay, so I'm saying you are watching Four Guys with Quarters. It's like
Yes.
quarters. Okay. Let's see. You're watching Four Guys with Quarters.
Awesome.
He's got free licensing for that, right? So you can use
Yeah, it's totally fine. I'll just be
Awesome.
getting that buyout at the end.
Pay royalties when you become a billionaire, Clownz.
That's all right, guys. I mean, you're
amazing.
you over there could handle all the royalties for all of us, guys. I want to thank you, Kosha, for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I feel bad that we held you up for so long. It's really been fun talking to you and getting to know you, and the fact that you actually play video games with your family is really cool. I think to a lot of people out, especially in our audience, they can relate to you more than they can to some other people that are in the industry. And yeah, we just really appreciate it very much, and I can't thank you enough for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
Dreadpool, Crispy, Gaz, anything you want to say before we head on out of here?
I
Yeah,
want to
just
say one thing.
go ahead, Drake.
Crispy, what's your next question?
I think we're at the end, but I mean, if I can get one more in, it's Need for Speed Most Wanted. That was one that jumped out at me because you were the dispatcher, and I literally loved that game, and that must have been a lot of dialogue. I mean,
Yeah.
throughout the whole game, like that's crazy.
I would say that I had to name every single car in it. I remember one session you literally just saying every single model of car that you could possibly play. Yeah, we've got a Bugatti on blah 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 blah, and then just replace that with every other car.
Yeah, that's like a huge amount, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Kosha, also, I know that one thing I want to say before we get out of here, Gaz always laughs at me for this, but if you do have children and they love video games, Minecraft Dungeons is a wonderful game to play. I don't know if you guys have played that yet, but
Well,
that is
they play Minecraft all the time. Is that sorry? I don't know. So is Minecraft Dungeons different?
It is a little bit different. It is, I believe, it's on Xbox. I'm not sure if it's on PlayStation. It might be on PlayStation too. But it's also part of Xbox created this new ecosystem, which is really cool. It's called Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So, like, let's say that you're in between when the world gets back to normal, and you're in between traveling or going places or something like that. You can actually log on your phone with a controller, a Bluetooth controller, or a controller hooks in, and actually really play Xbox in the cloud, no matter where you are.
Wow.
It's really cool. So you could sit
That's
there and play
amazing.
Minecraft Dungeons with your kids, while they're home with your husband, driving him crazy. You can sit there and just play games. It's something really cool, and a lot of people don't know about it, so I always like to talk about it because I'm a big fan of games and family-friendly games, and that is one huge one out there.
Awesome. I'll check it out.
All right.
Well, you definitely should.
It wouldn't be a podcast with 4GQ if you didn't plug Game Pass. I swear, I'm onto you.
I like PS Now also. Yes, I like PS Now also, but it's not in the cloud yet. And when it is, I will tell Kosha PS Now's in the cloud, and that will be great too.
You're definitely getting paid by Microsoft. I'm onto you.
I wish. I wish I was.
The beauty of that game is I was playing with some friends that were streaming. My daughter figured out, she was 6 years old. She figured out how to jump on the other Xbox, jump in the session that we were in and play. And I was like, all right, I got to get going. I told her to hang up. She was still playing with them for an hour. And these are grown men playing with, the 6-year-old. And they're like, sorry, I got to kick her out because she's not paying attention. And she's doing her own thing. So they're like, we got to kick you out because we can't go on to the next level without her accepting to go to the next level. They literally let her stay in there, which is funny. And that's the beauty about games like that is everybody can play and everybody can have fun. no matter your skill level.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much, Kosha.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure, and I'll go ahead and I'm gonna end the stream now at 11:40.
Oh, you're not doing outros?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, we could do outros. I just feel bad because we kept Kosha on here so long. But
We'll
Gaz,
do very quick. We'll do quick.
All right,
Very,
all right.
very quick.
Gaz, tell people where they can find you.
Everybody find me on Gamer.com. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter and Games. Fine.
The Micro Machine Man 2 has come back. Crispy. Oh, sorry, Gaz. Go ahead.
At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28, Xbox Live. Check out all the shows I'm on. There you go.
Treadpool?
It was a pleasure having you on, Kosha. You can find me on Twitter, Dreadpool with O's or zeros, YouTube, Gamertag, and Stadia, Dreadpool, all letters, all caps. I've got Breaking Bread with Dread, which is on Stadia. Excuse me. I'm doing too fast.
Anchor,
which is
too
on
fast.
Anchor.
That was not too
Yes,
fast.
thank
What I
you.
did was too fast.
Which is on Anchor, and it has the 9 different platforms you can go on, which is Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all that fun stuff. Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings, Gaming Beyond the Box Wednesday nights, and the rest of the time I'll be hanging out with the rest of the Fork and crew on Wilmy Hood's channel. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah, just before I go, I just want to say thank you so much, Kosha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, it's a weird one. It's Kosha.
Kosha. Okay.
Kosha.
Oh,
Kosha. So
we should have corrected us from the
We should have got
beginning.
this right at the start. But
I know. I always feel bad. Anyway, go on.
No, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and it's really been eye-opening. And I'm not just saying that just for formality's sake. It's been really engaging talking to you and really understanding your craft. So
Me too. I've really enjoyed it.
No, I appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to everything you're on, the Ascent and the Wonderman 2 and Cyberpunk.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Well, everybody can find me at Italian Clownz on almost all social media, 4 Guys with Quarters on Tuesdays for GQ TV, and of course, this interview with Kosha, who has been amazing and awesome to talk to. So I'll see you guys next time, and we're out of here.
Happy gaming.